Pro bono lawyers from LACOM should be readily available for any legal representation. Then we also have this recommendation on access to justice. We want that the filtering system of image should be addressed at the point of entry and at the magistrate level, and the dismissal of criminal civil cases, including remand warrants. For minor offenses, non-custodial measures such as parole, probation, restorative justice, and community service should be deployed or should be used in order to maybe like discongest the correctional center. Let's go down, yes. Then institutional gaps. We recommended that there is a need or pressing need for magistrates to be encouraged to caveat the remand order holding charge issued at the point of their expiration. Also, there is need for training and retraining of registrars on proper record keeping, documentation and harmonization of warrant of suspect, including charge, case number, etc. Inmates on death row, we recommended that as against the practice for state offenders where death sentence commuted to life imprisonment, term of imprisonment / amnesty in accordance with section 12 sub 2c of the NCOS Act 2019 and section 212 of the 1999 Constitution as amended. Also, we also recommend implementation of remote hearing, in which we suggested that virtual studio room should be operationalized and optimized in both custodial centers and the court to address lack of access to justice for suspects. Our impact of the recommendation. Implementing this recommendation will do this for us. Number one, alleviate overcrowding and improve living conditions in custodial centers. That's number one. Streamline judicial processes to ensure timely dispensation of justice. Minimize instances of legal detention upholding the rule of law. 4. Enhance the coordination between custodial centers and the judiciary, fostering a more efficient criminal justice system. Let's do that. Next step. Our next step that we want the panel to review is 1. Form an interagency task force to oversee the implementation of this recommendation, which is part of what we are doing today, and we thank the panel for this. Secondly, monitor progress through quarterly reviews and adjust strategies based on the outcomes. Then our conclusion, number 1, there is an 89.3% overcrowding of custodial centers in the FCT Command and Kefi Custodial Center. That's number 1 conclusion. Number 2, most inmates in the correctional centers are without adequate legal representation. And where there is, the legal representatives and their contacts are unknown to the inmates. Number 3, holding charge is still in practice in most of the magisterial divisions, which is largely responsible for overcrowding in the custodial centers. Number 4, some of the inmates are abandoned in some of the custodial centers due to change in jurisdiction of the court, affecting them of not knowing their next day of adjournment. Number 6, most of the medical facilities of the correctional centers that we visited are grossly ill-equipped with women and material resources to cater for their health concerns of the inmates capable of the outbreak of epidemic. Also, the inmates are largely malnourished across the custodial centers. Also, there is delay in justice dispensation in courts and is a causative factor to overcrowding in the correctional facility that we visited. Also, most of the custodial centers do not meet the standard hygiene practice, which have tendency of causing disease outbreak. Also, the health facilities in the custodial centers are grossly ill-equipped without specialized manpower. We also concluded that the quality and quantity of food of the inmate is insufficient and inadequate across the custodial centers. Also, most of the inmates were found to be tried outside their jurisdiction of their arrest, while some casemates were found to be issued different case numbers and they appeared at different courts. Despite the existence of virtual rooms set up in some custodial centers, it was not effectively utilized or used. These are some of our conclusions. Stroda, let's see. Okay. Just go up. Just leave this, right? Yes, the names are there. Okay, we don't need it. Okay. Okay, so I think that's all. Just pull up. No. Don't show this. Okay. Yes, thank you very much.
Okay, I would like to first, on behalf of the panel, thank the team that went to the custodial centers in the FCT, as well as other custodial centers where FCT inmates are kept. So thank you for your report. I have actually 3 questions. The first side, of course, actually, my question is that were the names of those inmates collected by the team? That's the first question. The second question, was it locking under the designated capacity? That were you able to find out the reason why that is the case? Number 3, the individuals that you have mentioned that did not have legal representation or did not have the contacts of their legal, those who were assigned to them to represent them, did you have opportunity of collecting their details? You did any of this? Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I would like to call ACG Idris Ibrahim to also contribute in the aspect of the questions. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you very much for the good job you did. I appreciate you and your team for, I know it's really not an easy one. I want to ask if you can share specific observations about the situation of the inmates, because we hear that in some of the correctional facilities there are, and if there were observations of that, and then observations of also what the facilities are currently doing with respect to those health challenges. And then whether there was also an observation of people who were either on bail or have fines to pay, but have paid the fines or fulfilled the bail condition.
Few? Is there anyone? Okay. You have a question, sir? No, yes, concerning the
What I want to know specifically now, as you have mentioned that you have counted, is there any clearly on some of those units?
Thank you so very much for the report, so detailed. I am Chukwura Yakubu Evesani of the Custodial Center, as per normal.
Idris Ibrahim to come and attend to some of the questions.
Thank you. I'm here as a member of the team that went to FCT, not as a ACG. Torture. Most of the inmates that we saw marks from the police stations or other cells. There is no inmate that complained that he was actually tortured inside correctional facilities, and they have started suing them. Dubai Farm Center, the reason advanced by the officer in charge was that the inmates as authorities, so that the people that are serving more than 6 months, 9 months, up to a year.
Sorry, on that same point, why is it 3 months and below? Because for farm centers, it is those who have 6 months to go or less to leave. So why are they doing 3 months or below?
Sorry, 6 months actually. So that's why it's appealing for this. And inmates of that nature, there are not many. For example, when we visited Osuleja and even Kefi, most of the inmates that are having less than 1 year, they're extremely, the number is very, very, very little. So there are specific health situations. We noticed that some of the inmates were having skin diseases. Kefi Olani for Ujay is almost perfect. There's nobody with such diseases. So the officer in charge complained of enough medication. There's also cases of TB, tuberculosis, and Kefi were actually segregated. We interviewed them, they were segregated.
Yeah, the skin diseases, did you say Suleja? You have to.
No. It's Kefi, old and new. Then the tuberculosis issue too. We noticed some that were quarantined. We interviewed them, and the situation is because they were even granted bail, but nobody to come up for their bail. There's detailed reports on all of them, including names, contact addresses of both their legal representatives and their relations. There's a particular one that came all the way from Niger. He has lost contact with his people completely. Unfortunately, he's suffering from that type of grievous illness. And the inmates that are attending courts, the FCT, area courts, whose criminal jurisdiction has been stripped for some time. There are very many in Kefi Old and Kefi New. We took their statistics. We have some of their names and a particular court. The record officer informed us that they have been working on it and they will continue to work on it. The legal aid council among us took detailed information and said it's very conversant with the situation. So the names are available.
Names, this is from which location?
From FCT here.
All of the facilities.
All of the, no, so mostly Kefi. But across the facilities, all of them have inmates that are not attending court entirely because the area courts have no criminal jurisdiction again. The inmates were counted. The first action we took was to enter the compound, and each cell was opened. The inmates were lined up, they were counted before returning back to their cells. The head count, we compared the number with the number of people that are in the court and exactly what was provided. We even snap the notice board, nothing admits us.
I just wanted, because this is one information we can quickly act on, in relation to those persons, those list, comprehensive list of these emails that have not been going to court because of the issue of the area court thing. It would be good that the panel is made to be seized of that list, because I think it's something that can actually be dealt with that result.
Numbers,
Dr.
has the details.
So we get. Well, I would. Have you finished your response?
Sorry, I just want to add on the person that asked about the numbers of awaiting trial on bail, or whether there is any complaint where we are intervening to injustice. The only thing I noticed is this rulings called, some of the inmates that were granted bail, some complained that as at the time that the judge supposed to sign the bail, maybe like the warrant or maybe like the order, as at that time the judge were promoted. So the case come back afresh. And I have at least 3 to 4 of those.
But how do they know that that is what the judge wanted to do?
I interacted with the lawyer as well.
Okay, because what they are now raising is the issue of the flow. Because if the court has started the matter,
exactly,
and the court, the particular judge or magistrate dealing with the matter has been moved, whoever comes has to start de novo, which means taking it off all of mind. You checked this information with the prosecution.
Yes, I did.
Did you? I mean, what I'm saying, from the prosecuting hand, did you interact?
No.
Okay. There's one more question, and then I will ask the public if we should receive.
Okay, just for further clarifications, because they are in the epicenter of what this panel is doing. You did mention that you noticed some signs of torture on some people, and then on the inquiry, you were told that either they happen in court or they happen in police, which means maybe there are people that those signs, let me not conclude, are they fresh signs or old signs?
Thank you very much.
Please bear with me. These questions we are asking is to get some details that may not be in their report, so that it could help us to see how we dive deeper to get more information. Yes, please.
Yes, thank you very much. And especially with the female correctional center at Kefi, we have some of them open up, even without you asking, that the kind of degrading treatment they receive from the Nigerian police force is terrible. And a large percentage of all the torture marks are inflicted by the police.
So they were visible.
They were visible, some in the stomach, some at the back, fresh wounds, and some of them just came like 2-3 days before then. So they were fresh. In fact, some on the faces, fresh. And most of them are from the police detention.
So were there within the facility costs inflicted either by the correctional officers or their fellow inmates?
Okay.
For example, the leadership of some of the cells, the provost and...
Okay, like from the interview, most of them said there were no cases of physical torture by the Nigerian Correctional centers. I actually thought somebody washed hand and wanted to pour the water away, but they told me that's the soup for the Gary.
Okay. Thank you. I just want to ask, do you collect the names of the people who you saw the visible signs of torture? Was there a list of some of those?
Well, we have, we will extract from the forms.
Okay, that would be good to have it. It's also important to just mention that torture is not only physical, but it's also about psychological torture, and also to be aware of the environment where the interview is conducted. So it needs to be safe environment that inmates would be free to tell you truly how it is. But you can provide that. Okay.
very important point also she raised. I was looking at it. If, for example, the correctional officers were around when they were interviewing them, there are chances
that they will not be able to speak up.
Even when they are not around, for the fact that it's still within this facility and they are still there are chances that you might not get 100%. But that doesn't matter. You've done well. We will look at it. Then the torture that came from court, because there are two different things. Was it the police or the correctional service officers that took them to court? Because there are two dimensions that you talked about. We also are interested in the psychological torture, even though sometimes the claim can be highly subjective, but we can investigate it to find more. But I'm talking now on those physical torture that you said two dimensions, police and court. Okay, so the ones you observe from court,
it's mainly from the police.
Okay. So
the physical torture.
Hold on a minute. Our secretary is saying we need to move so that we can have a better position to take notes.
Okay. So, like what we're saying, the physical torture is mainly from the police, mainly from the point of detention, like some that had been in custody for over 3 months. So they showed us, parts that have even healed, but that you cannot verify because it has been healed. But the ones that came, within in less than 1 week, those ones were still fresh. So those are the physical torture, mainly from the police. And the psychological or mental torture is still on the issue of welfare. And we interviewed the welfare officers separately, and we made sure that the interviews conducted for the inmates were done in other places, not in the cells. We had halls, maybe visiting areas. For Kuje, we use the visiting area. For Kefi, we use a part of the female custody and some other open area. For Soldier as well, we had, so the staff of Nigerian Correctional Service were not necessarily there, unless when we want to ask them questions, because we interviewed the medical officers, we interviewed the welfare officers separately to know what those cases were.
Okay, just to prepare your mind, we are not interrogating you because you're not, but we are asking to get sufficient facts because you had direct physical interface. And there are a whole lot of questions, but if we begin to ask it here now, we may not be able to also get the opportunity to hear others, probably from the leadership of the panel, the chairperson, the secretary, and other members of the panel. We will agree on having other meetings with you so that we can ask. There are a whole lot we need to ask, and the asking is to help us get some real facts that we can work with. Some of them are the concern I'm having. For example, it is no police alone takes anybody from prisons to court, from correctional service to court. I don't know whether I'm right. For somebody to go from correctional service to court, it is not police. Yes, but the person in the correctional service is in the custody of the correctional service officers, not police. So if there was any torture between the court and the correctional service, the correctional service need to account for that torture because they take responsibility for taking custody of the person, really taking the person to court, returning the person in safe custody. So if any other agency overreaches and tortures without their protection, it is something we need to look at. I don't want to stretch it beyond this so that we can listen to others. Thank you.
Hello? Yes, just 1 second. The court that we mentioned, it's not as if they went to courts, the custodial centers, and they came back brutalized. Most of the ones that came fresh from the court. Fresh from the court. Thank you very much.
Yes. Okay. I want to ask the general public, are you satisfied for the panel to receive this report from the team that visited the FCT and other custodial centers where FCT inmates are? Should we receive it? Okay. Can you announce the name? Can you give him the microphone to just announce that you're moving the motion for us to receive? Name, and just mention your name. And also, yes.
Hello, my name is Kabir Halim. I move the motion that the report should be received by the panel because it is well articulated and well represented.
Do we have seconders? Do we have any seconder of this motion?
My name is Intubisi Carlo Joseph. I second the adoption or the receiving of the reports from FCT.
Okay. Do we have anyone opposing this motion? Come in to receive. Again, if you have, but we know if you have, but we know we have to submit this, but we need to receive something from you. Corruption and other violations against Nigerian Correctional Service, I hereby receive, along with all my members, receive this report from the team that did the audit for the FCT and other correctional centers with FCT inmates, and also request the audit team to provide the additional. Yes, we need to hear who is the next team, and I had wanted to please be ready. Can you just
just one? I noticed one thing with the number of submissions, and when they were making their presentation, they said they interviewed 241. So their submission is short of 2. So probably I'll open the form because it's a virtual form for them to submit the remaining 2. But what I have on my record is 241 and not 243. Thank you.
So why that discrepancy? What happened to the 2?
Yes, it might be at the point of
Yes, it might be at the point of keying in, because what we did was to strategize, and there are few people who are interviewing, so because we were not allowed to go in with our phones.
So you should have been able to go in with your phone for the kind of authorization we had. But please, can you reconcile that figure? We want to know exactly the number. Please, can you
So maybe at the point of keying
we need
in,
that reconciliation.
the papers were not.
Okay. So what you could notice is that we have put in checks and balances to make sure that whatever information we're providing are all valid information. We've heard the presentation regarding the FCT custodial centers and custodial centers that are outside the FCT but are still holding some persons from the FCT. I want to ask the general public, is there any additional information of concern or information you would like to bring to the attention of the panel in relation to custodial centers within the FCT or where inmates from the FCT courts are being remanded or kept? Do we have any submission from the general public? Okay. I think with that, I would then ask that MC, if you can help us bring up the person who will present the report of Kano audit team.
For Kano Hunting Team, we have the representative here, the person of Miriam Mohammed, to make the presentation.
Well, then please feel free to do so.
My name is Mariam Mohammed. I am representing on behalf of Kano State Import Audit. I am presenting on behalf of the Kano State Import Audit. First and foremost, we have the executive summary. I will not bore the audience by going through the executive summary since we have the detailed report. Which are overcrowding, prolonged pretrial, immediate. Also adopted a methodology closely to examine and determine the legality of detention centers. The key findings are case file review, prolonged pretrial detention are on their waiting trial for over 1 year, with some cases extending waiting, understaffed from the cause, frequent adjournments and inadequate constitutional guarantees but also contribute significantly to overcrowding the correctional facility. We also have main issues. A substantial number of detainees were unaware of their legal rights, representing 40%. Those eligible for bail lack active applications. Even when bail was granted, detainees often to be paid in custody because they could not meet stringent bail conditions, such as providing substantial sureties or a large sum of money as bond. We have fine issues. Monitors found numerous cases where detainees remained incarcerated solely because they could not afford to pay the fines as part of their sentencing. For instance, one inmate at the Somalia satellite facility was detained for £1 for a minor offense of theft. We also had a minor offenses. The audit uncovered numerous cases involving minor offenses. An inmate in Kolonduse was in prison for stealing baby clothes for her child. Similarly, in Rado State, these cases underline these guidelines. The team observed that there was widespread non-compliance with sentences guidelines, especially in cases originating from Sharia courts, magistrate courts, and other lower courts. Sentences inconsistencies were observed in many warrants, often resulting in over highly harsh penalties for minor infractions. This indicates the lack of adequate training and sensitization among judicial officers regarding the sentences protocols. Stakeholder interviews. We had interviews with inmates which reveal a systemic gaps in communication and a lack of effective mechanism to inform detainees of their legal rights and options. One inmate stated, and I have been here for 2 years without a trial. I don't know if my case will ever be called. Such accounts highlight the absence of proactive efforts to ensure detainees are aware of their rights and challenges of long pre-trial detention. In addition, as MSCC Kano Central, an inmate disclosed being diagnosed with anxiety and other disorder. experiencing that the medication provided was insufficient to address her symptoms. This situation not only endangers her safety but also poses risks to other inmates in the facility. The lack of adequate mental health support within the correctional system underscores the urgent need for specialized intervention for inmates with mental health conditions. Placing inmates with several mental health conditions in specialized facilities such as psychiatric institutions and to manage such conditions will ensure they receive appropriate care. Correctional officers. Interview with correctional officers reported that the limited availability of legal aid lawyers must be significantly added with those available often overwhelmed by cases. Additionally, they highlighted the lack of staff force intervention, noting that most support programs were directly solely at EPs. This gap in addressing the need for correctional personnel adversely affects their morale and the quality of service. Health personnel. There were health personnel that oversees all the facilities in Kano and Jigawa State combined. Interview with the doctor at Jambuzawa Maximum revealed that there was need for assistance. In addition, the lack of electricity supply in all the facilities made it difficult to store medications that require special conditions. It also posed the question as to how the appliances in the clinic would work efficiently if operational is work, particularly if operations need to be carried out in the well-equipped operating room. Moreover, it was noted that there were underage minors in detention in several facilities with no credible mechanism in place to verify their ages upon admission. For example, in Rano Satellite Facility, inmates who appear to be underage reported being 16 years old. Facility staff admitted that the age recorded on the because that was what the court documented on his warrant. This raises significant concerns about the detention of minors in adult facilities and the lack of safeguards to protect vulnerable populations. Facility observation. Overcrowding. Overcrowding was the positive issue, particularly in rapid satellite facilities. Their cells were severely congested and lacked proper ventilation. Although an adjoining structure with 4 those cells had been completed, the last efforts it was also noticed that basic things into office and medical equipment like that in Power is largely not functional power. The lack of ambulance is further limiting access to medical care, particularly in large facilities like the Ozawa. Educational facilities. The office found significant disparities in access to educational, vocational, and educational facilities, particularly for female inmates. While male inmates in several facilities had access to basic vocational training and limited recreational activities, female inmates were excluded from recreational programs. This neglect not only undermines the rehabilitation goals of the correctional system but also reflects systemic gender inequities. Human rights concerns. The audit revealed several pressing human rights violations within the custodial facilities reflecting systemic issues in the management of detention and correctional services. Arbitrary detention. Instances of arbitrary detention were prevalent, with some inmates held beyond the legal detention limits without trial or conviction. These cases contravene conditional provisions under Section 35 of the 1999 Constitution.
as amended and international human rights standards, such as Article 9 of the International Convention on Civil and Political Rights. Such prolonged and unjust detention undermine the principles of fairness and the rule of law. Non-compliance with the Nigerian Correctional Service Act. Many facilities fail to comply with the provisions of the Nigerian Correctional Service Act, particularly Section 12, which mandates human treatment and protection of detainees' rights. Overcrowding, poor hygiene, and lack of adequate health care violate the statutory obligations. Vulnerability of minors and other marginalized groups. Minors were found within adult facilities without adequate safeguards to protect their rights. This places them at risk of abuse, exploitation, and psychological harm. Furthermore, detainees with disabilities and other persons face significant challenges, including lack of accessibility and medical care tailored to their needs. For instance, in Somalia Satellite Facility, a detainee with a visible physical disability reported being denied necessary assistive devices. Gender disparities. Female detainees were disproportionately disadvantaged with limited access to educational services, use the musical instruments donated to them by the NCS during their services, mostly in Nigeria. Several detainees reported untreated medical conditions due to the absence of qualified medical personnel or essential drugs. Mental health issues such as anxiety and depression were also prevalent but remain largely unaddressed. Limited access to justice. The inability of many detainees to access legal aid or representation, coupled with their lack of awareness of fundamental rights, reflects systemic denial of justice. For instance, detainees reported being unaware of their right to appeal or seek non-custodial alternatives, leaving them trapped within the system. Also observed that the custodial facilities had maintain a consistent and adequate water supply, ensuring that inmates have access to these essential resources. This is crucial within the correctional environment. Family tracing and reunification efforts. At the Kano Central Custodial Center, the officer in charge demonstrated exceptional initiative by facilitating the tracing and unification of an inmate with their family in KBC. This effort highlights the potential of correctional facilities to prioritize restorative practices and support inmate social integration. Uninterrupted access to HIV treatment. Inmates living with HIV at the Kano Central Custodial Center had uninterrupted access to antiretroviral drugs. This is commendable effort and it reflects adherence to health rights and ensures the continuity of care for inmates managing chronic conditions. Thereafter, we had a recommendation in this format. The immediate recommendations, we have the medium-term recommendations. We also have the long-term recommendation. The details of this recommendation are contained in the report. In conclusion, the audit highlights the urgent need for systemic reform in Kano State correctional facilities. Overcrowding, procedural delays, and inadequate resources continue to undermine the rules of justice. Rehabilitation and human dignity. The The recommendation outlined in this report provides a clear roadmap for addressing these challenges. Collaborating efforts among stakeholders are essential to ensure the implementation of this recommendation, paving the way for a more humane and effective correctional system in Nigeria. We also have as an appendix the data table of all the correctional facilities visited. The email statistics from Janguzawa, the email statistics from Kano Central, email statistics from Borondute, the satellite custodial facility in Somalia, and the Rano custodial centers. I rest my case.
I don't think we should be clapping. Do you want us to be clapping? No, we'll clap. We'll ask questions. We'll clap only when we receive the report. I have some questions to ask Kanu. Again, thank you, Kanu, for the team for making those presentations. The first question I want to ask is in relation to the inmates that you said had suicidal ideations. So, because that's an urgency, it's an emergency though. So, will you be able to let me know whether there were steps taken by the team to seek help or do something or provide information regarding the need to provide intervention for these inmates? That's my first comment. And I would want to ask, but you know, if you can take notes, that would be helpful, so that because there may be a lot of others that will ask questions so that you can respond. So it's about what were the practical things that will happen for the inmates that had noticed had suicidal thoughts. The second is that you had raised issues around mental health a lot. I don't know whether there were some concrete recommendations by the audit team for Kanu custodial centers regarding interventions that can help deal with the issue about the gap in terms of mental health. The third question is, you did mention that there was only one doctor, medical doctor, who was covering all of the custodial centers in Kanu and Jigawa. And I'm sure that you saw that as inappropriate and inadequate. But this medical doctor, is he the medical doctor of the correctional service or under the employment of correctional service or an outside person? It would be good to know. You also mentioned that there is a psychiatrist who under visits, even though you indicated that mental health care was insufficient. Wanted to again to know whether in relation to that psychiatrist, is it someone that is under the payment and your salary, under the employment of that you saw? You had indicated that there seemed not to be a mechanism for verifying the underage person. So I would need us, if you can let us know a little bit more regarding this issue, and again whether the team made any recommendations. It has to do with the basic amenities. You said this was grossly inadequate, and you had flagged the problem regarding lack of mattresses and beddings. And I was again wondering, and there was a particular situation you said was actually the case because of this lack of bed and bedding. So perhaps a little bit more information on this, and to find out whether there were concrete recommendations that your committee, your team made. I think the 7th or the 8th, as it relates to education, because you notice that educational facilities were available for the men, but for the women it wasn't the case. So again, if you can throw more light around this, and what would be the likely recommendations that came out from your panel. I do have two more three more last questions on this. One, I would like you to take notes so that you don't miss anything I'm saying. Please. Thank you. Then you talked about arbitrary detention. Please, let's understand what are the conditions that for where this arbitrary detention were observed. In relation to what situations and in particular agency that is the one causing this. The reason I'm saying this is the panel would like to get the information on this so that we know what we need place of worship, and that there were equipment donated and they could not use it. So I wasn't too sure whether I heard you that those were the case, if at all. Would it be possible to give us a little bit more information on that? What types of medical conditions were treated, and what did you see were the reasons for that? And again, what recommendations will you be likely to make in relation to those? If you have captured those questions, I will ask my other colleagues if there are additional questions they want to. And then once you have all the information from everyone, then you can give us the feedback.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, hold on. I want to suggest that you respond to this first, because the questions we're asking you from the panel is critical to our mandate. Do you understand? And then some of the questions she has already asked, some I also have made notes on, so that if you respond and the response you give is sufficient, there may not be any need for me to ask them again. And then once you are done, I will ask, and the public will ask. You will ask once we are done, or you want to ask first? Let her answer this first. You have opportunity to ask it. If it's not addressed, you will ask it once you get to that point, so that we can have a structured approach. Thank you.
We want to also plead that everyone is a working tea break. You can come in with your tea close by so that you can also be listening to the session. Please, can we have people come in with your tea up so that we can continue with, just because of time we didn't want to break the flow. Please do come in and let's go with that, please. Go ahead, ma'am.
Okay, I want to make my response in light of the gaps in the correctional officers told us that some of the inmates had psychiatric problems. Like one specifically said she had a revelation that she should kill her husband because her husband have the ability to correct some of the wrongs, the societal wrongs that are going on, and the husband has folded his hands and has refused to do anything about it. And that revelation kept coming to her, and she was fighting her mind that this is somebody she has 9 children for. How could she have killed that person until she now attempted to kill the husband?
Okay, there are 2 things. When you were presenting your report, you mentioned about suicidal ideations. So now you are raising issues about some form of paranoia. That is some form of, the feeling that to kill somebody maybe because the person is killing you. These are 2 different issues. Yeah, so it is important. Both of them are mental cases and should require attention. But I wanted to, while you are answering that, because what you are raising is a key point that we need to leave with that. We believe you when you say there are mental health cases, but I wanted to know specifically for the person who had suicidal ideation, whether there was anything that happened. Now, so it's important that we can also look at this issue you raised, because the issue you are raising is a very different nature.
Okay, ma'am. The person that had the suicidal issue, she was actually brought in there because she had this feelings that she should kill herself, she should take her life. So somebody came in to stop her from killing herself, and she ended up killing that person.
Okay.
Yes. So that was
okay. So now my concern issue is that suicidal ideation, was it still present? Did you find out whether she was still having that thought?
Yes. With the way
what did she say?
With the way she was reacting, and most of the time when we even talked to her, she wasn't even.
No, I understand. There's a reason why I'm trying to ask, and we're trying to find out this.
Yes.
That thought, is this still a thought that she was currently experiencing? Did you ask?
Yes.
What did she say? Microphone.
When she talks, you know that the thoughts are not from a normal human being.
Yeah, no, she said it's a normal human being. She is, it's just that she has this advantage of mental challenge. Now, the reason this is the case is that if somebody had a live continuous ideation of that suicidal, it is an emergency. So the point of trying to establish whether that state of mind was still a current state of mind is critical to be able to know the kind of care that should be required for that person. Because you don't want to come and find out that an inmate has killed herself.
Yes, in our recommendation, we said when such cases are noticed, they should be isolated.
Yes, but for this particular case, what is the position? You know, everything we are looking at, we look at providing concrete response to the ones we can do at that moment, and then how do we generalize our recommendation to others and other issues going forward?
Isolated, that was what we said.
You said that the person should be isolated.
Yes, so that she might pose a danger to other inmates.
Okay, the person who has suicidal ideation, the first danger the person will pose is to herself. So isolation may also not be the solution. So the question, because you may isolate where can be harmful, and the person can still have a problem. So but this issue is, as I said, is an emergency which needs to be brought if you did, and then the question is, did you bring it to the attention of the correctional center? Maybe they already know, but did you bring that to the attention? So, and what is the intervention that is being made for this person? Okay, go ahead.
For the arbitrary detention, some cases are purely civil. Some cases are purely civil and they find themselves in detention. We had instances of where some people have maybe in the sentences guideline, they have compensation to pay at a time of imprisonment. Some of these sentences are not clearly spelled out, especially from the Sharia courts. The sentences time are not clearly spelled out. Some you see whether it is with option or whether they are to serve the two are not usually clear. Some are even finished serving their term, but for the compensation issue, they still remain in detention. For the underage, the correctional service officer said sometimes when an defendant is brought to their custody, that from appearance you know that this is clearly on an underage case, but because the warrant that brought them there has risen their age to an adult, that they don't have any mechanism of verifying this age. stage and their hands are tied. They just admit such that sometimes what they do is to check their pupil to see whether they have air. That at times that is what they do. But even when they do, they cannot just reject the person outrightly. But when they have cases of bruises, that sometimes they reject. Yes, the amenities from the interview we conducted with the inmates, and we even saw it ourselves that recreational centers are not open for the inmates in Kano Custodial Centers. And the educational aspect was missing because we saw the men having a full time playing football and other recreational activities. For the women, the place we saw is that they can't even do any recreational activities around their in the presence of going around the correctional the medical facilities they have, which is very beautiful, especially in the new custodial center. But those facilities are not good to use because electricity is still a challenge there. Okay, the question, Madam, is concerning the Christians not being able to make use of their musical instruments. It was said that because that Kano Central Custodial Center is behind the Emir's Palace. So they said they wouldn't allow them to use the musical instruments because it makes large noise and disturbs the public. So that's why they refuse them making use of it. Then let me still emphasize on the disparity between the men and the women's facilities. The men, yes, they have very huge, very large open to play. They have, recreational centers and all that. But the women, they are being isolated. Their own compound is not yet. They are being confined in a place, and they said there's no way they can bring them to mix up with men. And because the place is so small, we only saw the sewing, when they do sewing, and I think it's just sewing. Yes, that was the sewing that they have there.
Just one talk. Thank you so very much. And I also want to ask a question. Speaking about the sound equipment that they say will disturb the MS Palace, I want to find out, do they have like loudspeakers in the mosque and used to call for prayers during the prayer time? And the band thing they are talking about, is it going to be used for like 24/7 or a particular period of time during the day? So you try to find out.
Interview with the women that we excused the doctors that the donation that they were given musical instruments, but they were not allowed to use it, that they collected from them, say because of the noise. And then we asked the officer in charge
about this, and he said he was not the one that explained that because it's very close, the place is very close to the area as far as that because of the noise.
United Nations Standard Minimum Rule for Treatment of Prisoners, the right for every inmate to freely worship as he or she deemed fit in the religion. It's a right. It's not a privilege, it's a right. Even if the person is a traditional worshipper, the United Nations Standard Minimum Rule expects that the person should also be able to have access to practice their own religion.
Yes, that is why we flagged this in our report.
Okay, thank you very much. Some words have already answered. The depression issue or mental health issue, is it just one place or did you observe that in many other places or other locations? Use the microphone, please.
It's not one place. That one that's the hit is the husband on the head.
Just talk to me.
Yes.
Immediate attention.
Very skinny, it's the skin, very skinny. And the skin, you know that there's, we just pointed on that.
Manifest. If they don't tell you or the people around them tell you, you won't know. And they also align with to judgment for that.
Because even from the report, really combats with the health challenges it is having.
Okay.
No,
You
because
observe.
even